How's it going, everyone? It's Jim, and we are going to do the detail result of my testing video for the 08, which you can see a little bit of there in front of the table here. And I did just a little ride just now, just to kind of refresh myself. It had been a couple of days since I ridden the scooter. I did a detailed video on the scooter, of course, but just to go through some of the specs. It's a 500 watt motor with rear drum brake that also is keys in an electronic brake when you hit the brake lever. And a lot of those degrees of braking and acceleration. Hold on a second. Got a barking dog. Alright, sorry about that. So, got the drum brake in the rear that also engages the electronic brake. Front and rear suspension, minimum amount of travel, but it does a really good job. You got the air tire in the front and the solid tire in the back. Scooter's around 38 pounds, 48 volts, 10.4 amp hours with this particular model. 500 watt motor. I'm going to show you some range testing, some acceleration testing, and then some lighting stuff, braking, and give you a little wrap up and a brief talk about this compared to the 09. I did a full video on that, but I just want to do a little summary to wrap that up. So let's dive right into some range testing. Alright, so here's my first range test I did. And this I did in speed mode 2, so kind of a middle of the road mode, probably about as slow as I'd want to ride this scooter for a long distance. There was 9 to 11 miles per hour of wind, kind of coming crosswind to me. At the end of the test, the motor was at 99, a little over 99 degrees. The temperature was 55 degrees during the test. So the motor heats up a little bit on it, which is pretty common on these electric scooters. And you can see here some of the stats on the ride. 19.3 miles, my average speed was 14.3, which I have to stop a fair amount, so that average speed is a little bit, it doesn't tell you a ton really. So here's my next speed mode. This I tried to do in the top speed mode. This is in speed mode 3, and I tried to maintain as fast of a top speed as I could throughout the duration of this. So this is kind of like your worst case range scenario. Honestly, it's probably riding a little faster than I'd usually ride. It was barely any 6 to 7 miles per hour wind from the south, and I was kind of going more east-west on this trip. The motor at the end of this range test was 121 degrees. It was only 62 to 63 degrees outside, so it heated up quite a bit. I'm sort of surprised about that. Doesn't seem to affect the engine performance or motor performance, but it does get a little warm. And there you see I got a little under 15 miles of range, and my average speed wasn't grossly faster than it was before, but it still was a little faster. So range test number 3. This range test I broke up into 2 legs, as you see here. And that was because this range test I was going to a little conference, so I rode scooter there, and so I got a total of, and I had to ride a little bit after the conference because it was, I knew it was about 8 miles there, so I knew I would have a little range to burn at the end of this. That's why the second leg's longer. But I got a right around 17.8 miles by my GPS, barely 0 to 2 miles per hour wind, barely anything. It was pretty cool out, 48 to 54 degrees, and the motor at the end of this test, I did not do the motor temperature at the end of this test because it was sort of broken up, but 17.8 miles, pretty good. Alright, this is the last range test in this video, and I wanted to do a range test trying to show the maximum weight on the scooter. So if you'll see on the video there, I put a dumbbell and I weighed it beforehand. That was right at 220 pounds, which is the maximum weighted rate for this scooter. And so I got a range of right at 15 miles. The average speed is quite a bit lower in this test. It was under 13 miles per hour. The wind during the test was 5 to 7 miles per hour, kind of a crosswind. The most interesting thing to me is the motor temperature is 138.8 degrees. It was 65 degrees outside. So quite warm. The motor got quite warm at that heavier weight. and you really did notice a difference in acceleration, not just top speed. At the beginning of the test, top speed didn't seem to be affected that much, but acceleration really was. So all in all, my average was 17.4 miles. RepRides advertises like 21 to 23 on their website, so I feel that's pretty close. Like it's not grossly overestimated like some companies are doing. What I did is when I'm recharging these, I'm using a kilowatt meter and seeing how much electricity it takes to recharge it, and basically divide that by the amount of the miles I rode on that particular range test, kind of like you do gas mileage, and get watt hours per mile. This scooter isn't tremendously efficient, and a lot of the scooters aren't. Over 25 watt hours per mile seems a little on the high side, but it still goes an adequate distance, I feel. It took 5.5 to 6 hours to recharge, and you can see the different kilowatt usage. So it's about 5 cents US dollars, 5 US cents to charge it. So I feel like it's really cheap transportation. Getting almost 20 miles for a nickel, it's pretty good. So next we're getting into some acceleration testing. So to date, the 08 is the quickest scooter I've ridden. So I got, 6.5 seconds for me at 14.5 miles per hour. And that mile per hour is hard to get because my GPS speed, and that if you've seen that video, the GPS speed, I had issue actually, in this one I don't show it, but I had issues. The GPS speed lags slightly, so in an acceleration test it wasn't really helping me out very much. So I was using the camera on the speedometer and a GPS app, trying to get a rough idea. So the total speeds are not, they're kind of relative. But I wanted to just do a quick summary on how this ranks with other scooters I've ridden as far as acceleration goes, and you can see that the numbers bear out that it's definitely the quickest scooter I've ridden to 100 feet so far. So each of the videos when I do details, I'll kind of present the same list just to compare it back, and that's what I'm hoping to build little references so you can see, like, that for 100 feet, that's a whole second's quite a bit of difference between a couple scooters. So braking, the 08 brakes quite well, and I did something a little different this time. I did a top speed about 20 miles per hour when I hit the brake, and a 15 mile per hour, and that's kind of what I'm gonna do in the future, where it's 15 miles per hour, because that's every scooter can do that. And I think almost above 15 miles per hour, your braking is starting to be, if you're really concerned about braking, you just have to go a little slower sometimes. And so at 20 miles per hour, I got a little over 35 feet, and I do these each 4 times, so I average out the number. And then at 15 miles per hour, I took almost 27 feet. Not bad. And then my son, at a lighter weight, at 15 miles per hour, is at a little over 21 feet. So it kind of shows you weight comes into play and everything. In comparison to the other scooters I've ridden from 15 miles per hour, the reason there's one missing here is because I didn't do that one at 15 miles per hour and I don't have it anymore. So anyway, you can see it did pretty well. The only one that performed better was the 09, which has the same basic rear brake and then a front disc brake. But still quite a bit better than most of these scooters are stopping. I feel really comfortable in almost any situations. The only time I felt that the braking was inadequate was going down a hill. If you already have quite a bit of speed going and trying to reduce it, just all that combination of momentum. But other than that, I mean, it's easy, it's fun to lock up the back tire and work around with it, and so yeah, it's a lot of fun. Okay, a little lighting test here. This is a little video at night. My son's riding it, just to show you how the headlight and the brake light looks at night, so hopefully this helps you out for some visualization. I just want to do a quick, I've already done kind of a comparison video with the 09. And I'm just doing this because I had the 09 as a demo model, so I didn't want to put quite the amount of miles on it for doing range testing and what have you. Alright, so I got about 18.5 miles with the 09 range-wise. I think that compares well to the maybe the 14.8 I got here with the when I was in speed mode 3, because I was in speed mode 3 and I did some speed mode and I did some off-road stuff. I'm pretty confident in saying that it's probably, you know, a couple miles in each speed mode more range than the 08. Not as much as you might think because of the watt-hour difference in the battery capacity, but part of that's because the other scooter is a little bit bigger, a little bit heavier, only a pound. It just seems like it might be a little less efficient. But anyway, they're both really good scooters. I kind of think of this one as more like a street bike, and the other one is more of a dual sport, where you really don't want to go off-road on this. The other one really isn't made for it either, but at least you can do some light trail riding. The other one, there's a little more, because it's got the dual air tires, a little more comfort. The deck's a little bit bigger for foot positions, but this one's also pretty generous sized. It's really exactly what you're looking for. I wouldn't say between those scooters there's a clear winner for all people. Me and my son and my lady friend all like the 08 a little bit better than the 09. So my general conclusion with the 08, I think it really performs well. What speaks to it a little bit is I'm getting rid of some of my other scooters. I'm using this more for commuting, and that way, I mean, it does, I like that it's got that little extra speed. I tend to ride in speed mode 3 or speed limit 3 and not run at the top speed, so I have some ability to accelerate a little bit if the situation calls for it. I find the braking really good, and I don't mind that there's, you know, I like how it's clean looking, and the lighting is, I mean, it's just you know, I wish it was lighter. That's really the only thing I really wish it had different, honestly. I'll probably do some modifications on it, and I'll report back as I put more and more miles on the scooter. So I hope that these the results of these testing help make a decision. Maybe you already have. I hope I'll be testing more scooters, hopefully, and kind of building this library. And one of my goals eventually is to get a website where this will be searchable information, so you can, you know, compare stuff on there. But I'll keep bringing you some videos and some detail, and hope it helps. So we'll see you next time. Thanks a lot.
Catch the wave, feel the